Perhaps.
హలో మాస్టారు. నమస్తే.
హలో. నమస్తే మాస్టర్.
ఆల్మోస్ట్ ప్రొఫెషనల్ గా ఉన్నారుగా.
నువ్వు మాస్టరు.
ఇంకా వీడియో ఆన్ చేయలేదు. ఓకేనా?
చూడండి, ఒకవేళ వీలైతే కాసేపు చేయండి.
వద్దులేండి మాస్టర్, ఎందుకు మీరు కొద్దిసేపు పెడతాను.
సూపర్ మాస్టర్. ఏంది అసలు
చాలా తర్వాత
పక్క టెకీలాగా ఉన్నారు మాస్టర్. ఏదో
చలి పడుతుంది మాస్టర్.
నెట్ఫ్లిక్స్ సిరీస్ లో చెప్తారు కదా.
చలి పడుతా ఉంది అందుకని.
గుడ్ మాస్టర్. అదే నిన్న ఇది హెచ్ఎస్బిసి డిస్కషన్ ఉండే కదా,
ఓకే.
అందుకనేసి కొంచెం నాది రీనేమ్ చేస్తాను. ప్రొఫెషనల్ గా తయారయ్యాను.
ఓకే.
ఓకే, పర్ఫెక్ట్. రాజేష్ గారు
బాగా వినపడుతుంది మాస్టర్ వాయిస్.
వినపడుతుంది మాస్టర్, సూపర్ క్లియర్.
ఓకే మాస్టర్.
మిమ్మల్ని తర్వాత నేను హోస్ట్ చేయాలి, ఒక్క నిమిషం ఆగండి. లెట్ మీ రైట్ నౌ. మీరు ఒకసారి మేక్ హోస్ట్, ఒకసారి స్క్రీన్ షేర్ ట్రై చేయండి. హాయ్ శ్రేణి, గుడ్ మార్నింగ్.
లేదు మాస్టర్, ఇంకా డిసేబుల్ లో ఉంది.
ఓకే, గివ్ ఎ ట్రై నౌ.
ఇప్పుడు వచ్చింది.
ఓకే, ట్రై అవుట్ ది స్క్రీన్ షేర్.
ఒకసారి మాస్టర్ చేస్తున్నాను. కనబడుతుందా?
యా, ఇట్స్ విజిబుల్ నౌ. ఇట్స్ గుడ్.
ఒక్కసారి మాస్టర్ కొంచెం సెట్ చేస్తాను. ఓకే మాస్టర్, బ్యాక్.
Give me a second. Hi Srini, hi Kanya, good morning.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Yeah, we are still waiting for the join. Give me a second. Hi Molly, hi Raj Garu.
Hello Rajesh, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Hello Rajesh.
Good morning, Andy Raj Garu. Hi Raja Singan. Morning.
Good morning, all.
Hey, good morning, Shiva. Morning, Deepak.
Hi, hello.
I think we will have more participants than last time.
Yeah, I think it's more of like cloud and Kubernetes, right? So that might be gain a lot of interest to the people.
Yeah, because that first topic was somewhat new for most of the people.
Yeah, and especially like to the techies and who got technical background, right? They might not be motivated with gardeners and all.
Yeah.
So they must be looking for something technical, pure hands-on to make their hands steady. Yeah, hi, John, Ishwar. Good morning.
Morning, Rajesh.
Morning. Good morning, Raj.
Morning.
Yeah, we will wait for one more minute before we start, so that like at
Okay.
least participants are still joining. So
Are you from Rugby?
yeah, I'm from Rugby.
Oh, where about in Rugby?
In Academy Drive,
Oh, Academy Drive, Madhuval Dagara.
almost near to the place, not just beside. It's a 75 Academy Drive.
Okay. What exactly about this meeting?
This is going to be bit of hands-on on the AWS and Azure, and as well as the Kubernetes. So Rajesh Podpati is an expert in infrastructure part, and he has like almost 15 years of experience. I'm going to give that introduction. So he's going to cover AWS, Azure, and as well as the Kubernetes at high level, and that's going to set the baseline for the future sessions. And he's going to take more sessions. So it's a knowledge sharing in the grounds, actually, Raj.
I think this is not for me because I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm not into this technology side. So I'm a medical device distributor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I thought that this business coach means you are giving some coaching like that. So
That's going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow we are going to have a blockchain session, which is going to cover wide spectrum of business areas where this blockchain is using, including supply chain, financial services, banking, and so on. So he is expert at the entrepreneur side. So for today, if it is not that greatly helpful to you, I think like yeah, if you want to stay, you can stay. Otherwise, you can drop also, Raj. That's
good. My name is Rajesh also.
oh, okay. Okay, great to meet you, Rajesh.
Good. Yeah.
Sure, we will connect later. Actually, like we'll see
Then,
what
okay.
we can discuss about on the entrepreneur side. Okay, great. And hi, Pradeep. So as we got a good number of participants, let me introduce. I think like not much introduction is required from my end because most of the participants are from last week. So myself, Rajesh Suguru, I am Chief Executive Officer of Digital Disruption Technologies. We got our startup in UK, Singapore, and India. And not much to wait. I would like to introduce about Rajesh Podapati. Rajesh Podapati, are you with us?
Yes, Rajesh.
Yeah, please turn on your camera so that everyone can see you at least for a few seconds. I know you got some bandwidth issues today.
Yeah, hi. Hello, all. Good morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, so Rajesh is one of the expert, not one of the only expert who has worked with me in OCBC Singapore. And he used to take care of and run the big programs in Singapore related to the infrastructure. and he got wide experience in the on-premises and cloud technologies. And currently he is in UK, and he's going to walk through. I'm confident that he's going to give great knowledge today for us to introduce on the cloud services and as well as the Kubernetes. Okay, anyone want to say something before he start the session to set your expectations, or he can directly start?
Yeah, we can go ahead and later we can get some questions.
Thanks, Siva. I think like silence is golden. Rajesh, please go ahead and start your sharing your screen and begin the session. Thank you so much, Rajesh, for accepting my request.
Sure, Rajesh. Thank you for this opportunity. And hello all, very good morning. Okay, let's make this session as interactive. And firstly, I would like to understand what is your expectation from this session? Like, are you planning to, okay, maybe few of you might be already using the cloud, or few may not be. So before starting the session, I would like to know, like, okay, what kind of level I need to go down to explain the things. So if you can unmute or you can post in the chat, if you're planning to switch your career or just learning as an additional skill.
Pradeep, if you are saying something, you are not audible.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Pradeep, please.
Hey, hi Rajesh. So yeah, I'm Pradeep. Basically, I'm a product manager in one of the organizations here in the UK. So we've been implementing cloud at a different scale altogether. You know how financial services have their own security vision and various other internal tribe control and stuff. So what I'm expecting from this session is how basic can we go in cloud, so that as a I'm more like not a technical product manager. I'm a business product manager. So what's the depth in which I need to get into is something which I'm not clearly aware. Okay. So, and you asked me what's the depth I need to go into? Yeah, I was like, okay, this is a good question which I had. So that's where I'm, kind of standing. Yeah.
Thanks, Pradeep. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, definitely we can go to the low level. Not an issue.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, like, if the people who are on
Srini
the
want to share something. Looks like.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, if anyone want to speak, please raise your hand so that it is visible.
And also, if you can post in the chat, like, what technology you are currently working on, so that I can get an idea.
Sure.
Yeah, please go ahead, Rajesh. I think like Srini is not unmuting.
Okay, sure. Okay, guys. Firstly, just want to set an expectation. Yeah. Okay, there is no small doubt or big doubt. You can ask any doubt. We are all learning. We are into learning phase. Okay, first, let me start with, okay. So prior to cloud, okay, let's go to the history. Prior to the cloud, like, we used to have, I know, like, everyone might be knowing the data centers or a server rooms where we used to host our servers and deploy our application to the world. So normally we call the data centers the one which we own it as on-premises, where we have our own servers, storage, backup devices, network devices, and many other devices in the single place, which we call as a data center. So earlier, even now, like, many other organizations who are into hybrid mode are still managing their own data centers. If they want to bring any application live, if they want to host any application into the servers. So they need to purchase these devices, network devices, storage devices, servers. And once they set up all these three, they need to have a virtualization layer. And on top, they have to install an operating system. On top, they have to install the respective applications like database, middleware application like app servers or web servers. On top, they have to import the data, they have to create the data, and they need to publish the application to the world via internet. So this process is to take nearly 3 to 4 months. Let's assume that if I got a new project where I need to buy a servers, I don't have a capacity in our data centers. I need to procure the hardware, and the procurement will take normally 2 months, minimum 2 months. Even it was before COVID. After COVID, it went to 2 to 4 months. Then setting up the servers, hardening the servers, setting up the middleware and database applications, and testing the application in different environments. Yeah, that one we can take it separate. So until this stage, it will take minimum 2 to 4 months. So the thing is that it is very time consuming, but at the same time, and also like you need to have a different skill set across your IT teams, like who have expertise in all these skill set to set up all these things. So back then, I think nearly in 2010, Amazon started with Amazon Web Services, and it's been almost 13 to 15 years by now, and they have evaluated a lot, and they are very mature. And not only AWS, currently in the market, the leading cloud service providers are Azure, Google, Amazon, IBM have their own product, but it is not so popular. The top 3 cloud service provider at this moment in the market are AWS, Azure, and Google. So all these 3, they have their own expertise into their own services. At this moment, like if someone asks like which one is the best to go in, means like no one have an answer. It depends on your requirement. If you're looking for a analytics kind of services, yes, Google is the best. If you're looking for a big data kind of platforms, yes, Azure is the best. And there are many other services where Azure, AWS is expertise. We can get in later. So all these cloud service providers, they offer 3 types of services: IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. IaaS means infrastructure as service. That means, so where we see the red color one. So they manage these services. We don't have any control. And they are guaranteed that they provide the services with high availability, with mostly they say like 99.9% no downtime. And if you're opting for IaaS, so you need to bring your operating system and bring your middleware applications, and you need to deploy applications. And if you're going for platform as service, okay, for IaaS, yes, AWS, all the cloud service providers, they have all these 3. If you come to the PaaS, so they'll manage until this runtime level. That means like they'll manage the servers, operating system, they'll deploy the database, they'll deploy the application or web servers. You just need to bring your WAR file, and you need to deploy it, and you need to create your data. Example for the PaaS is like RDS, Relational Database Services. Example for IaaS is EC2 servers, where you need to deploy your own OS, and you need to build up on all those things on top. Coming to the SaaS, like they'll give you everything. You just need to utilize the services like Google Drive, Office 365, emails, or any other these kind of applications. So the advantage of the cloud is the scalable, means like they have prepared for the on demand, and they have reserved a lot of resources in terms of CPU, network, storage. So they have a reserved capacity in the data centers. Yes, they do have a limitation. If you're looking for the like high number of resources, like they will inform us, like they will say like, okay, they need to inform them ahead because they too has to manage their own resources. They cannot keep unlimited resources in their data centers. But based on that trend, they have their own analytics to analyze like how much resources required for the down the line 3 years or 4 years, something like that. So they'll prepare their own resources upfront. So there is a lot of cost invested by those teams into the backend data centers. So when you compare with on-premises with the cloud, so in on-premises, if you are getting a new application or new project, if you want to bring it online, you need to, if you already have a reserved capacity from a different projects, leftover resources, yes, you can build on top of it. But most of the cases, the budget will be allocated for the respective project only. So you won't be having additional or buffer resources in the data centers. Whatever resources purchased as part of the respective project, they will make sure that the minimum 60% of the resources will be allocated and the remaining resources will be reserved for the future growth for the down the line 3 to 5 years. So we won't be having enough resources from the existing projects to build your application. So you have to go through all the procurement and deployment, all these things. Whereas cloud, it is readily available. It's ready-made solutions. You just need to pay the price upfront, or they have multiple offerings like pay as you go, or reserve your instances, or pay partially. So you don't be having, but you need to worry about only the budget. Remaining they will take care. If you have a budget, they'll give all the services. But when you see the actual cost, when you compare with on-premises versus cloud, always, if you have your own data center, it's always best to have servers within your control. And also, like, not only that one, security, and also in terms of cost also, if you're having your own data centers, it's always cheaper solution if you buy your own hardware and you set up. But if you have a on-demand requirements, immediate needs. So if you don't have resources on time in your on-premises, yes, you have to go for a costly solutions, which are cloud solutions. So most of the enterprise organizations, what they does at this moment is they go for a hybrid solutions where they will manage their own data centers and they'll have Azure, AWS, and Google subscriptions. And if there is a requirement, and they'll go and consume resources on those cloud services providers. Once they have their own resource available in their data centers, they'll move back their applications into the on-premises. So having hybrid option is always better, assuming that you are owning your own data center. So small and medium scale organizations, they cannot, like, their budget won't be not enough to set up the data centers resources. So they always go for a cloud. Guys, so far any queries? Like, I'll move on to the next topic. I'll just show you guys how the so this is, you can go into Google and you can look for a AWS global infrastructure. So wherever you see the red color, that means it is coming soon. Wherever you see a green color, they have the data centers and the resources available for you to host your applications. So you take any cloud, so they have their own naming standards, like data centers, they call it the availability zones. So take an example, Northern California. So they call it as a region. The region contains more than one data centers. So that means more than one availability zones. So, like, let me show you something. Recently, I noticed, okay, it is also evolving. They have been keep on adding up new things. Like whatever you see today, it may not be there tomorrow. They will be adding additional things. I've seen in the okay. So today as of today, they are having 30 regions, 96 availability zones. That means 96 data centers. I want to show you something different actually. They have added a local zones and wavelength zones. So which wavelength zones means, it's a wavelength zone. It's showing up here. I was looking for a picture actually. They used to have a picture. So normally, like for an example, if you take an Hyderabad, they're showing up local zones. So the local zones means like they will provide the low latency communication, like it will be very fast to communicate. So they have an option to keep selective resources near to your on-premises data centers. So like for a hybrid solution, like if you are choosing an Hyderabad as your local zone, so it will give a better response time than choosing availability zones. And if you see in Japan, should be in Japan, you can see it having availability zones, local zones, and wavelength zones. So availability zones are nothing but it's a normal data centers. Local zones, yes, you have an option for a hybrid solution. It provides a low latency with a high response time, low response time. The wavelength zones, it is having a network for the 5G communication. So anyone who is working on the 5G networks, they can use these wavelength zones to build their applications. So these are new. Okay, I haven't seen because I haven't seen this website for a while. So I recently noticed this. So that means what I'm trying to say is like they used to keep on changing the things. Like even the console or the AWS GUI or Azure GUI. After 1 year, it may be a different. We'll be having a different view. There are a lot of options or features they keep on adding on. So this is global infrastructure, like even Azure or AWS or Google. So they'll be having their own availability zones. So these availability zones, that means look, let's take an example of Singapore. Singapore, in Singapore there are 3 data centers which are 3 availability zones. So these data centers will be having a redundant sources. Like take an example of power. So they will consume the power from a different service provider. So these 3 will be having a 3 different power sources. Even in the case of one service provider having an issue, it won't impact their services because the remaining 2 availability zones are available. Whenever we are consuming or whenever you are deploying any servers, you need to make sure that you are deploying it on across more than one availability zone for a high availability. Even if one data center goes down, your application will be having no impact. So likewise, so all these availability zones, so they will make sure that they have each and everything. Like take an example of telecom, they consume from the different service provider. So they will make sure that they are having 3 different redundant sources. Even if there is an issue with the respective service providers in terms of power, water, or network, telecom service providers, so it won't impact the customers. Though they say there is a 99.9% outage, 99.9% no outages. We have seen scenarios where there are issues that happen. It's not because of the hardware. Some issues happen because of the data centers hardware. Some issues happen because of the application issues. So though they say it is highly available, yes, the backend, they are also an IT organization. They to have their own limitations. They to have their own issues similar to the normal organizations. But their software, they follow proper principles like SRE principles to make sure that they to bring your application to make your application online all the way 24/7. So that's introduction. Yeah. Thanks, Shiva.
Yeah, this one is just summarizing what's pros and cons, whatever you explained in the initial slide. So it will be easy for everyone to understand, whoever is new to this cloud.
Mm. So this is a AWS console. Like you can, if you want to sign up, there is a free trial available. So that free trial will be having a limitation. So in the free trial, so you can have a EC2 running for maximum 750 hours with no cost. And S3 is nothing but your storage. It's an object-based storage. You can have 5 GB data for initial 12 months only. RDS, relational database, you can choose Oracle, Postgres, Maria, anything for a respective hours. Amazon DynamoDB, all these services are available in your, okay, there are many other, in your free trial account. So you can sign up and you can have your own account. It's very simple, straightforward. You need to give your credit card, valid credit card or debit card for signing up any Azure or AWS or Google. So when you log into the very first thing you have to do when you sign up any cloud service provider, you need to make sure that you have your MFA enabled, multi-factor authentication enabled. So when you sign up, so you'll be having this home page. Go to MFA. It's a two-factor authentication. It's very important. So you need to make sure that you have MFA enabled. Then only start consuming your resources. So I have already enabled MFA for my account. So you'll be having an option here, enable MFA. So it is also, it's a straightforward. Like if you go through the steps, it's easy for you. But make sure that you have an MFA. There are cases where we have seen in the news, like the Bitcoin miners, they have hacked the accounts and they have utilized their resources. And the bill went into too high, where they were unable to pay the bill, and somehow Amazon managed to settle up those things. But don't get into those things. But make sure that when you sign up any cloud service provider, make sure that you have your MFA. Then only you start learning or practicing or doing consuming any resources in any cloud service provider. And also, whatever you consume, if you are like, if you want to, before leaving the lab, you make sure that you shut down or you delete the resources you consume. So there are few services which are free, like VPC is a free service. When you provision a service, it will consume CPU and memory. They will charge us. Make sure that you shut down your service. If you have your data already in the service, you shut down your service so that they'll charge only to your disk space. They don't charge for your CPU and memory because your servers are down. If you are just doing learning, make sure that you delete it so that the next time you can create it, you'll be familiar with those steps. So before getting into, okay, in the infrastructure side, so there are majorly three components: networking, storage, operating system. So we should clear about your basics on these three things first before getting into this cloud. So let's start with the networking. So, like we all know, like what is an IP address? IP address is a unique identifier for any device, for either your mobile or laptop or any other device to communicate over the network. So there are two different IP addresses, mainly IP version 4 and IP version 6. So initially when US military has invented this IP4, they never anticipated so much growth in the network. So they went for this. They initially developed this IPv4, which is a 32-bit IP address. Even I believe like very few are using IPv6. Still, we have IP addresses available in the IPv4. Soon, maybe down the line after 10 years, maybe there'll be a lot of IPv6 IP address maybe consuming with the devices what we are using. At this moment, so far, like very less devices are using IPv6. So in the IPv4, okay, yeah, for now, you can ignore about IPv6 because it is not that much popular. So in the IPv4, so they have classes actually. They have categories. So we have class A, B, C, D, and E. So A, B, C are for like the D and E are they're reserved and for R&D purpose. Let's go to the wiki. Yeah. So we have IPv4 classes A, B, C, D, E. In class A, we have yes, please. Okay. We have 16 million IP address in this network. Class B are having 65,000 networks. Class A are having 256 IP addresses. Class D is for multicast purpose, which mostly, if you are familiar with the Red Hat GFS2 cluster or IBM active-active clusters. So in the active-active clusters, we use the class D for multicast purpose. Class C is a reserved class, which we don't use. So if you see any IP address, either in your mobile or in your laptop, you should fall under any one of these. So let's take a So any IP address falls under it's like it's 100. Yeah.
Rajesh, sorry to interrupt. I just
sure.
want to check like whether it will be good to go like in detail about these things or first get the overview, because just want to cross check with the audience, because this much of too much details about this networking and I'm not sure whether that they can.
Okay, actually, sure. Actually, I won't go in depth into this one. I'll touch high level because this is very important to get into the next stage, because I have seen previously people from, okay, yeah, you are right, actually. Yes, we can ask the audience as well. But it's good to have this knowledge. It's a basic knowledge.
I want this knowledge, yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So any IP address will fall under this range. So again, within these classes, there is a private IP address segment in each and every class ABC. So that private IP address and public IP address is a different concept. So anything which is communicating over the internet, it need a public IP address. Anything like if we see in our office organizations, like where either if we take an example, okay, take an example of my laptop. I'm connecting to my router and my laptop is connecting to internet via my router. My laptop will be having a private IP address. Router will be having a public IP address. So if I have if I have my mobile in my hand and it is connected to my router, so that one also having its own private IP address. It doesn't have a public IP address. So whoever is communicating to the internet, it will have a public IP address. So my laptop or my mobile, if they want to go to internet via my router, so they will initially go to the router. From the router, it will go to the internet. So the router, you can call it as a router, or it's called a gateway, internet gateway. And so for in these classes, there is a separate segment which is reserved for the private IP addresses. So all of our office organizations or any private networks, they will consume the private networks. and whoever want to communicate over the internet will go for the public IP addresses. And also like, how do we identify a device in the network? So there is one more concept called MAC addresses. These MAC addresses, we like if I want to build a new device, so with a interface, network interface, I need to purchase a MAC address from an organization. There is an organization where they will sell the MAC addresses. So in the world at this moment, each and every device having a unique MAC addresses. Yeah, that's it. That's what I want to cover. We can go to the next section. Okay, before getting into that one, so there is a concept called subnet and okay. So there is a concept called subnet. So networks will be divided into subnetworks. So based on the subnet, it determines number of IPs are available in the subnetwork. Like anyone, like it may be a tester or developer or SAP guys, anyone else, they need to have this basic understanding. It will help. It will be helpful for each and everyone in there. It may not be useful now, but at some time definitely they need to learn these things. It will be good if you clear your this IP address, private IP address and public IP address and subnet things. Okay, so yeah. Okay, coming to the AWS services. So they have a lot of services. Currently they have categories. So the main thing, like the basic things each and everyone has to learn is networking. Okay, yeah, in the networking, VPC. Yeah, Route 253 is a DNS service. So first you need to start with your VPC, then you can later on you can learn Route 53. And servers, EC2, storage, S3, databases. So in the compute, they're having so many services now offering. Earlier, they don't have this many. So nowadays, the containers, they have their own Kubernetes services as well. And okay, they have started providing Red Hat OpenShift as well. Okay. Okay, so what we can do is like, we can we can deploy a new server over the internet and we can try to access the application over the internet. We can do the demo. It's a basic classes. It is not a high level classes. It's a very basic thing. So what we're going to do is like, it's a step-by-step process. First, we need to build the VPC. VPC is a virtual private cloud. Okay, let's take. Okay, let's take any region, like every region will be having minimum. Sorry. Okay, assume that this is a Singapore region. Okay, sorry, I miss word, MS Paint. Okay, please bear me with these diagrams.
No,
So
okay.
let's add a test. Okay. Okay, never mind. Yesterday only I downloaded this one. I was unable to find out the MS Paint equivalent in Mac. Okay, assume that this is a region. In a region, we'll be having minimum more than one availability zones. Assume that this is availability zone 1, availability zone 2. So whenever each availability zones are interconnected, they have their own networks, backend networks, they are communicated, they have, and the routers are there. Okay, let's go down to the low level. Assume that they have in the availability zone, they have their own core switches, edge switches, and routers. And again, in the availability zone to also they have their own devices. So if they want to communicate from one availability zone to availability zone, they'll communicate via router or internet gateways. So, but it won't be visible to us. So when you're creating a VPC is nothing but, okay, it's an isolation, network isolation within the availability zones. And I forgot to mention, this cloud is a shared resources. It is not dedicated for anyone. The availability zones will be hosting services for many other customers. It's a shared services. So the VPC will give you an isolation for your application or resources within these data centers. So when you're creating a virtual private cloud is nothing but you can assume it's its own data center. You can hypothetically assume as your own data centers. So the virtual private cloud, you can create across multiple availability zones within the same region. You cannot create a virtual private cloud across regions. So there is an option to communicate across two different virtual private clouds set up in different regions. But a VPC is region bound. It cannot cross within that region. It is available within that same region. So this is an VPC. First, we need to build a VPC. It's nothing but assume that it's your own data center space. So again, in this, you need to create a subnets. First, you have to define your address space. Address space. Okay, address space is nothing but so this is okay. I'm taking this as an example. This is my address space. This address space is nothing but it's a very big network. With a /16 subnet. It comes with nearly, I believe, 65K IP addresses, if I'm not wrong. So it will give an option to provision 65,000 devices. It can be servers or storage devices or any other things, because each and every device, it have its own network interface. All are software defined networks. So first we need to build. Yeah, go ahead.
Rajesh. So if anyone have the questions, please raise your hand in between and you can always interrupt and ask the questions. And I got a question here. So when you say VPC can be established only in that regions, let's say my availability zone is Singapore. When I choose that as the availability zone, all my servers has to sit in the Singapore only, right? To create this VPC.
Yes, right. Okay. This is the yellow color one is a VPC. So you can provision within this VPC itself. You cannot, and assume that you are having in this region, we are having 3 availability zones. When you create a VPC with only 2 availability zones, all your resources are available within these availability zones only. And any server or any application you provision here, it cannot communicate here. So whatever, okay, there are options to enable the communication, but any VPC when you provision, right? If you bound a specific availability zones, all the resources are available within that availability zones, are deployed within that availability zones.
So the latest rectangle that you drawn is, let's say, UK availability zone, or like outside of Singapore availability zone. Is that correct?
No, no. In
or
the
like
Singapore, there are 3 availability zones are there.
okay, but I opted for only 2.
Yeah, correct.
That's the reason I can create my VPC only in that 2 availability zones. Let's
Correct.
say if my availability zone is in UK, meaning like I have Singapore 2 availability zones I opted for, and 1 in UK. Can I still establish this VPC between these 3?
Okay, Raish, you need to create a new VPC in a UK region within that
Okay.
availability zone. And if you want to
And
enable the communication between Singapore to UK, so there are options called VPC peering via transit gateway. Where there are multiple options are there. You can establish the communication. If they want to communicate via private network. So
okay,
assume
got
that
it. There is a
if you
way
are
to
having a
communicate, but I cannot create a VPC between 2 different regions actually.
correct,
Within the same region, if I opt for 3 availability zones, I can create VPC between these 3. So that like
correct.
3, like as you said in the past, the power supply zone or like power supply providers. So for these 3 different data centers, there might be different power supply suppliers. So that if one data center goes down, still my VPC should be working by using other two, right?
Yeah, yes, Raish.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rajesh. And if anyone have questions, please raise your hand so that you can ask the questions. Thank you, Rajesh. Please go ahead.
Okay, if we go down to the low level, right, how they are making sure that even if one goes down, they're moving the resources seamlessly to the other available zones. So each and every layer have their own different technology. If we start with the backend storage, they have a concept called global active devices. So whenever you assume that each data centers will have its own storages. Okay, sorry, bear with my diagrams. So the backend storage will be having a technology called global active device. So when I create a new server here, okay, I allocated one OS disk, okay, but backend the disk is written into this storage and this storage. Even if this storage or the whole availability goes down, they will seamlessly migrate these servers, and still the server, your data is accessible from the storage. Like this, each and every layer, like networking, they have a concept called OTV. All the VLANs can be visible across all those availability zones. So likewise, each and every technology, each and every layer, networking layer, storage layer, they have this high availability kind of solutions they have implemented. So that's why they're not telling 100%, because even the GAD, let's take in the storage, it is no guarantee that 100% it is available. There are scenarios, the GAD also will go down. We have seen that scenarios. Okay, first we need to create a network isolation for your purpose, which is nothing but a VPC, virtual private cloud. Then you need to create a subnets. These subnets will divide this address space into subnetworks. So once we have your subnets, let's take this one. So let's create a VPC called my first VPC. So with the address, sorry, we'll create a VPC with this address space. Then we'll create 3 subnets. Each subnet in different availability zones. So these 3 subnets we can name it as application subnet, web app, DB subnets. So these we are deploying in a private network. So the use case what we're trying to do is we'll deploy an Nginx application. We'll try to access that Nginx from internet. So since these servers has to communicate to internet, they are into private network. So we need to provision internet gateway device. It's an internet gateway, and this internet gateway will allow your devices from VPC to interact with the internet, to communicate to internet. So we'll create internet gateway, we'll attach to the VPC, which is my first VPC. So we need to create a route table. By default, when you create a VPC, there'll be a route table. Or nowadays, we are seeing that there is internet gateway is created. Earlier days, it won't create default. Nowadays, we are seeing many changes now. So there will be a default route table. Default when you log into Amazon very first time, you can see a default VPC. That VPC will be having default subnet, default internet gateway, default route table. They all are prepared, but when you're starting, don't use those default services. Let's get into those things. So we'll create a route table. That route table, for this route table, we'll attach these 3 subnets. Okay, let me show you what exactly is the route table. So these are private IP addresses. So any device using this private IP address, if they want to communicate to internet, they need to know like how to traverse, how to reach the internet. So this routing table will tell the devices how to reach the internet. There is a route we can add. It's nothing but when you go to any mall, you can see like if you're looking for a washrooms, like normally like you can see the signboards. It will direct you to the location of the washrooms. Likewise for the servers, if they want to go to a specific, if they want to reach a specific thing, the routing table contains the information. They'll reach to the routing table and they look for the path to reach to the required destination. And we'll add the route so we'll attach these 3 subnets to the route table and also a route to internet gateway. So there is a concept called security group. The security group is nothing but it acts as a firewall for the servers. It is only for the EC2 instances. It will control the inbound and outbound communication to the servers. Inbound means who can come and talk to a specific server and on which port. Outbound means that server can communicate to which IP address or which port. So any connection coming inside to the servers is called an inbound communication. If the server want to talk to outside, which is the outbound communication. So the security group is a firewall for the EC2 instances to control the communication. NACL is a firewall again for the subnets. Security group is a stateful. It's a stateful. NACL is a stateless. Stateful means if you allow a inbound communication, you don't need to create an entry in outbound. It automatically knows to go out. Whereas the NACL, it is a stateless. When you're creating a inbound rule means you have to create outbound rule as well. And also, we need to create a key pair. So there are multiple ways to communicate to the servers. Password authentication. Sorry, I forgot the naming thing. Key-based authentication, password-based authentication. These are the familiar one. Most of the organization, maybe in your organization, you might be connecting to your servers by your specific user IDs and password. That is a password-based authentication. Key-based authentication means there'll be a public key and private key. It's a asymmetric encryption. It uses asymmetric encryption. Public key means you can consider a lock. Private key means it's like your actual key if you want to communicate. So we'll create a EC2 server with Nginx web application. And we'll have a public IP address as well. Okay, in short, like what we're trying to do, we're trying to provision a new server and we deploy application and we'll try to access that web application from internet. So for that, we need to have a VPC. It's a network and subnets, and that any device which are deployed in this private network, if they want to communicate to internet, it has to go to internet gateway. Normally in the organizations, in enterprise organizations, in a real-time scenarios, very few VPCs will be having a internet gateway attached, because normally like in your dev, okay, the organization structure will be like, they won't keep, okay, like when you initially create an account, so it comes with an account ID. So we'll be having we make use of the organization. That organization, under organization will be having multiple accounts. Each and every account will be used for a specific purpose. For an example, like if I'm setting up a new company, it's a small scale company, and I'm having development, UAT, production, non-production, 4 different environments are there. Assume that I have 4 different environments. What we do is we'll create a more than for each environment, I'll create an account. The respective environment devices or servers will be deployed to respective account. So assume that this is a non-production account. Assume that this is a development account. So I'll create a development VPC. I'll deploy servers for development purpose. And likewise, like each and every environment will create a separate accounts. And we'll create other accounts for the shared services purpose. And for the networking purpose, we'll create a separate account. In that networking account, we'll be having the internet gateway connectivity for the VPCs. In some cases, like they want to communicate to on-premises data centers, we'll have a relevant devices deployed in that networking account. It's kind of a VP, virtual private gateway devices, something like that. We'll deploy in the networking account. In a shared service account, normally like we deploy our Bastion servers, so that if you want to log into any of the development or UAT or anything, so first we allow them directly log into the Bastion server, which is hosted in the shared service account. From there, we'll have a communication to the respective accounts. There are multiple ways. There is no proper standard. Even AWS will give a different solutions. But we need to make sure that your security controls are in place, so that you won't be having any loops in your networks or in your security design. It's very important in the cloud. So until now, any queries? Like if not, then we'll move on to the lab now. So this is a very basic demo.
Rajesh is happy to take questions. You can
And,
raise your hand, or yeah, go ahead, please, Srini.
It's about the application. When you deploy the application to access it, you got this public key, private key, right? Or for the user who's trying to access that application or the server, sorry.
Yeah, it's for servers.
Okay.
Okay, normally, okay, there are multiple ways accessing the servers deployed in the cloud. Some users is same like on-premises CyberArk. You can integrate CyberArk to the cloud servers. So you log into your CyberArk. From there, you connect to the cloud servers. It gives a same feeling as your on-premises. Some users AWS Systems Manager. Each and every server having an SSM client. So from the AWS System Manager, okay, I'll show you AWS System Manager. In the Fleet Manager, you can see the servers, all your servers, and you can take a remote terminal from here itself. So there are different ways in connecting your servers. In some cases, like if your on-premises network and the cloud networks are already having a communication, you can, from your desktop itself, you can open your PuTTY and you can connect to your EC2 servers which are deployed in the cloud by just entering your DNS name or IP addresses. There are different
Okay.
ways in communicating. There is no standard method. So each and everyone follows their own way, depends on their budget.
Sure. Can you quickly give the overview of the end customer using the application, how it's connected when customer trying to see some app or something, or getting the information?
Okay, sure, definitely. Okay, assume that, okay, I'm not getting into the availability zone level. I will tell you that devices will be, you have to pass through whenever you want to connect to your application. Okay.
Please, thank you.
So normally, basic thing is any communication, any incoming communication to the network, right? Your VPC, it has to pass through a firewall. Okay. So firewall will be a first place to get in. Okay. So firewall will filter the firewall will be having a rules whether to assume that, okay.
So, for example, if I'm a general user as an application, I just opened the application, I'm accessing some information, how it's connected to the server, and then how it fetch that information, the connection between those end user to the server. And the other one is if I got a login credentials and how it checks the permissions.
Yeah, sure, definitely. Sorry, okay. Assume that so this is my AWS. Okay, I have an account, AWS account. Assume that this is an account. This is your development or your production account. You have your server here, and your application is deployed here. Okay. So this is a normally any production servers, we don't keep a public IP addresses. We only keep a private IP addresses. Okay. So this server will be having an interface. This interface is having assume that it is having a private IP address. Okay. So in front of this one, there are many layers within that AWS itself. So it is connected to it is part of a subnet. Okay. It is part of subnet, and this subnet is part of VPC, and this VPC will be communicating to the security devices. It depends on organization. There are many layers, security devices, they can keep it here. One of them is firewall. So in front here, there may be a application load balancer. Sorry, I'm unable to draw it correctly. Okay. So assume that I'm trying to access Microsoft.com. Okay, I'm just giving a hypothetical example only. It is not exactly. So when I'm accessing Amazon.com, that Amazon.com, it is a DNS. It's nothing but a DNS actually. Okay, just take an example of AWS. So this is nothing but a DNS. It will be having a backend IP. It will be resolving to a public IP address. That public IP addresses will be available. The location of the public IP addresses are known to your internet service providers. So it will go to the DNS first. From the DNS, it will find out the IP addresses, and from the IP addresses, it will come to know like where to hit actually, in a way. So very first, it will come to your router. Okay. Very first, it will come to your firewall. The transaction will first hit into your firewall. That firewall will be having a firewall policies, whether to allow the transaction or not. So before the firewall, there will be some other devices like Akamai. Okay, there are many other security devices which you can have it. But the basic thing is a firewall. It depends on the organization. Different organizations will follow a different procedure. Likewise, like for a medium scale organization, they'll go with the minimum services because of the budget constraints. For a financial sectors, they will add a different many devices before this. For an example, like Akamai, all those things are there. So it comes to the firewall. Firewall, if there is a allow policy in the firewall, it will allow your transaction come into our VPC. And from that VPC, it will go to the application load balancer. The ALB will translate into the respective private IP, and it will connect to your application. So that's how it reaches to your server or your application. And when responding back again, it will go via your VPC. It will pass through the firewall. It will come outside. Even if the VPC doesn't allow the outbound communication, you will get an error. Even if the server's internet server security group should have a inbound communication and outbound communication, your NACL, the subnet NACL, which is a subnet level firewall, should have an inbound and outbound communication, inbound and outbound rule. So assume that if you want to troubleshoot any issue, very first thing is like you need to make sure that your OS level there are no firewalls added. Like an example, like IP tables. That OS level security firewall is a IP tables on a Linux machines. So you need to make sure that it is nothing is blocking your communication. Then come to a security group, make sure that you have the inbound or outbound rules. Then check your VPC NACLs, which is nothing but a subnet firewall. Make sure that you have a inbound and outbound rules allowing. Then in the firewalls, you need to work with the respective firewall team to make sure that they're allowing your communication.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, there are many other devices. There are multiple firewalls. Some organization will follow multiple firewalls because of high security. Some will go with firstly they go with their own firewalls, like FortiGate firewalls, their own on-premises firewalls, and they go with again the native firewalls. Like in Azure cases, we have Azure firewall. Likewise. And in between, there will be Akamai. I'm not sure where that Akamai comes here exactly. I'm not that much familiar into the networking.
Akamai is the just a load balance, a kind of it's transferring the data. It's called what you call bandwidth. If you want to send some data, and then it'll provide the service to transfer bits or bytes data.
Okay, Srini, where does it exactly sits? Is it near to the server, or it is in the after the firewall, or before firewall, or where does it sit?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of a how can I say, from one your system. If you like releasing the software, it will transfer the packets to the local servers across the world. Depends on the way the servers are, and user trying to download that software, and will provide that bandwidth to them.
Understand, Srini, like where does it comes into the picture? Like if I'm requesting, okay, they're having a feature called DDoS, all these things, right? The Akamai security. Yeah. And when I'm accessing an application, very first it will hit into Akamai or it goes to the firewall. Where does that Akamai comes into the picture?
I don't know that detail. I was worked in one of the software application provider, so at that time I came to know that.
No issues. Thank you. Actually, if I have MS Paint, it will be easy to represent the diagrams. Then
where you used to draw the servers and used to connect, right? I forgot what software was that. Yeah, but still should be fine. Yeah, any questions to take here with Rajesh or Pati? Good. Silence is golden. I think we can enter into the practicals. Someone is connecting just now. Yeah, Rajesh, I think it's a good time to show the real time one.
Okay, Rajesh.
So that we gain some interest, because yeah, we got some idea on how this infrastructure works actually. Thank you.
For the interface where I log in. Okay. So this is the AWS console. So all the services, either you can go to this AWS or you can look for the respective, if you know the name. And if you select here, it will create a favorites on this toolbar. Let's start with the VPC. So if you see the VPC, there are many things are in the same VPC page itself. So what we're going to cover is like, okay, if you see, I have created this account yesterday itself. It have a default VPC, it have a default subnet, it have a default route table for this VPC, internet gateway. All these things are there, but don't use those things. I suggest you go with a new one, create a new VPC only. So we go with my first VPC. So the address space. So you have to design your address space before getting into these things. So this is address space. No IPv6. And tagging. Guys, when you're working in a cloud, the tag is very, very important. If you want to categorize your resources, you should follow the tagging. Its tag is nothing but it's just a label. You are like, if you give a tag for all your devices, if you want to list down any resources which you have created for the purpose of learning, you can categorize, you can list out them. It will be helpful later. Assume that general use case, I'll tell you. If you're having more than 1,000 servers in your organization, if you want to patch only development servers, assume that you're having a single VPC, and in that VPC you have all those production, non-production, UAT, anything, any other, everything is deployed in a single account, in single VPC. If you want to segregate them, like if you want to patch only to the development, by selecting the tag, you can perform a specific activities on your respective servers. It's one of the use case. And also it will be helpful in the doing billing as well.
Of different functions, is it? Like, let's say development team, if we want to control or give access to specific VPC, we need to use this. I mean, this tagging might be helpful there to control by using the policies.
Okay, this tagging, yes, it have multiple use cases, right? Like, can you come again? Like, I just don't understand your query.
Yeah, just now I understand that this tagging might be helpful to segregate the development team to the UAT or like UAT SIT segments and as well as the production segments, right? If we are creating our VPC in the single available zone. So
Okay.
is that tagging helpful to provide specific access or like to restrict certain users to access production data? Let's say as a developer, I shouldn't access production, right? So is that tagging helpful for that? That's the reason, or it's a different reason?
Okay, there are different use cases, Raj. Like, for an example, I created these servers. Okay, assume that in the same VPC, I created 3 servers. Okay, assume that there are 300 servers. Okay, and if you want to do any specific activities on a specific servers, okay, if you have given a tagging, you can filter your servers based on your tagging. You can use that filtering for your specific purpose. One of the use cases is patching. If you want to patch only to the specific servers with the respective tag, you can choose a tagging to patch or perform any other specific activities. It is not for controlling the connectivity.
Okay, so it is to manage the softwares, clustering the servers. Is that correct?
Yeah, managing your resources.
Managing the resources by clustering the servers into different categories. Like SIT sometimes might not require the the same security levels or that we apply on the UAT, and production might not require the same security levels that we apply on the site and UAT. So in that case, we can cluster the servers based on this tagging and apply the specific kind of like security policies on that, right?
Yes, that one also possible actually. If
One
you
of
want
the
to
use
apply
case,
a
I can see.
specific, yeah, that is also possible.
Okay. And I understand in the past that we need to create different user credentials or different accounts for the different segments. In case if we have to keep all these servers in the same segment by using single account, this tagging might be helpful in that case, right?
No, for logging purpose, it doesn't helpful, Rajesh.
I mean, like login, it's not login purpose. It's about the managing the resources again. Because different accounts we are using for the different purposes. Let's say account 1 we are using for the SIT, and account 2 for the development, and account 3 for the production. So in that kind of scenarios, these anyway, let's not elaborate there. Basically, like if we do all these SIT, UAT, and production in the same service, same availability zone and the same VPC, then this tagging might be helpful. That's what my understanding. But anyway, please go ahead. I don't want to hack this session. Thanks, Rajesh.
Okay. Okay. So
Rajesh, I have one query. So
yeah,
can we create multiple tags for one or only one? Any restriction like that?
You can have more than one tags, unlimited tags.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
So we just created a VPC and we enabled the DNS host names option. That means like whenever you create a new service, it will have the DNS name as well. Apart from the IP address, you'll be having the DNS as well. It will be very helpful. So we just created a VPC. If we see the VPC, it will be having a VPC ID. So each and every device is having its own ID. And DNS host names is enabled, is mandatory. So if you see here, like it has created its own route, it has attached the existing route tables to this VPCs. That one later we can work it out. So and one more thing, very important thing is like when you're troubleshooting your networking issues, you need to enable this. You need to forward the VPC flow logs to a specific S3 bucket. S3 bucket groups are there. So it will be forwarded to the cloud. You can see those logs in the CloudWatch. It's a very important thing. If you're troubleshooting anything on the networking side, assume that you are having a server, that server is having a security group. You have allowed the inbound and outbound communication, and you have an ACL, you have allowed it everything. Still, if you're unable to communicate to the servers, the first place you have to get into is VPC flow logs. So we'll create a new subnets. We don't use the existing one.
Is there any reason creating new ones or not using the existing ones or default ones?
There is no reason actually. Actually, just trying to give a feel like, okay, what are the steps will come? Well, will be
Yeah,
coming.
sure. Understood. Yeah, thank you.
And also, I forgot to mention something. Okay, so each and every region will be having a naming actually. This naming will be very useful when you're going for a like IAC infrastructure as a code. So this is the region. This region name is EU, Europe West number 2. As again, like in this region, if there are multiple data centers, there it will be named as EU West 2A, 2B, 2C, something like that. So here itself, we can see like in Europe, London region, there are 3 data centers are there. You can see 2A, 2B, 2C are there. So I'm just giving a random name, but each and every organization will follow their own standards. That standards is a mandatory. So I'm creating a 2A. again, so /24 means we can create a 255. Will be having 255 IP addresses in the subnet, but not all 255 are available. There are some IP addresses are reserved by the AWS, few for the DNS, few for the gateway purpose. Minimum 4 IP addresses will be reserved by the respective cloud service provider. If you take in Azure or AWS, you won't get all 255 for your use. So we're creating a second subnet. We are choosing another availability zone.
Based on what we decide, how many subnets required?
Sorry, your name, please.
Srini here.
Yes, Srini.
Based on how many subnets, how we decide how many subnets we required?
Okay, this is you need to plan during your solution phase or design phase. Like it depends on your requirement. So currently what we're doing, if you see the subnetting, right? We're creating.
Okay, subnets for each like a web app database. That's
Right.
what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. Got
So you get only 251. So with this design, right, you can only create nearly 700 plus servers only. If your requirement is more than that, you need to work out on your subnetting. Is that the question you're asking?
Yeah,
or?
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, got it.
It depends on your requirement. And they won't charge for this VPC creation and subnet creation.
Rajesh, that VPC IP should be like always 10.1 like that, or is there any?
Sorry, your name, please. I'm unable to see one. Sorry.
Shiva.
Yeah, Shiva. Actually, okay. This has to be a private IP address range, but you can have any number. If you see the private IP addresses, right, it will start with either 10 or 172 or 192. You can choose any number actually, but it should fall under your private IP addresses. Okay. Okay. If you see the default VPC which was created by AWS, it started with 172.
172. Okay.
Yeah. You can have any number within that private IP address range. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So let's create an internet gateway. So it's already we have an internet gateway created. So this internet gateway is nothing but this internet gateway will be attached to a VPC to allow your resources to communicate to internet. So when we create an internet gateway, so it is by default, it is not attached to a VPC. We have to attach to a VPC. So when I click on, when I move the cursor here, it shows the available VPCs. So we have the VPC, we have the subnets, we have the internet gateway. We need to create a routing table. Looks like it already came with when we create a VPC here. either we can use or we can create a new one. Or okay, you can take a, like, I'll show you the step like how to create a VIP routing table. Just give any name and you select the which VPC you are attaching that routing table and give the things. So if you see the routing table, so it's a main and so there is a default route added in this routing table. What does this mean is like if we see our address space is a 10.1.0.0/16. What it's telling is in this VPC, anyone want to communicate within this address range, any device falls under this address range, it's a local, no need to go to outside, it can communicate inside. So in our case, like we need to go to the internet gateway. So we need to add an additional rule, additional route. So anything, okay, for an example, I'm just giving. So what we have added is, apart from this IP address, if it is looking for any other IP address, okay, this means any or all. Just remember, in all zeros means anything or all. If the device sitting in this VPC, it is trying to reach any other IP address apart from this, it will go through this internet gateway. That's what the route we are telling. We're just giving a sign direction for to reach the internet gateway. So in this route table, we need to attach our subnets. So the next thing is a security group. So it has given only one VPC. So this is the one actually. This security group is a stateful. If you're allowing in inbound or outbound, it automatically remembers. We're adding the inbound rule. So what we're trying to do is like, okay, we will allow port 80 or 443 for these servers to communicate, and 22 as well. You can mention all TCP, all the ports, inbound rule. So when I choose my IP address means it has picked up my router public IP address. So this rule is nothing but inbound rules. Like from this IP address, if from this IP address any request comes over TCP for any port, we are allowing. Normally, like we keep like we only keep SSH. We are allowing only SSH from specific subnet, something like that. So that's how in the enterprise organization we'll keep that rules. So we no need to add outbound rule because security group is a stateful. If we are adding inbound means it automatically goes out as well. So NACLs. Already created a NACL. So this NACL is allowing everything. Source means all, it's allowing everything. So we can make this because it's already attached to our VPC. So what we have done, we created a VPC with a address space, and we have again created a subcategories. We divided the big network into small networks. We created 3 different subnets. Each subnet is sitting in a different availability zone. And we have created an internet gateway. This internet gateway to allow your devices to communicate to internet, and it is attached to your VPC. And we have created a route table to inform your devices anything reaching, looking an IP address apart from this, outside of this network, it has to go to internet gateway. And we are creating a security group. We are creating a firewall. This is a virtual firewall for your instance to control your communication. NACL is for the subnet firewall. So the last thing is we need to create a key pair. So the key pair comes under EC2 service.
This is for authentication.
Yes, it is. We are allowing only key-based authentication. We are not allowing password-based authentication.
Okay.
Further, we are creating these keys. If you are using PuTTY, you have to choose this. It will create, when you click on create, means it will download a private key for you. Public key is within our AWS. So it will create a private key for you. If you're using a Windows laptop, you choose the PPK. It is a PuTTY private key. If you're already having like SSH service in your laptop, like in Mac, we have a terminal. You choose the PM file. Both are private keys. Okay. So if I want to log into the servers, I have to use this PM file private key to connect to the server. So we have all the prerequisites available now. Now we need to create a server now. There are no servers at this moment. Launch the instance. So coming to the, okay, let's go back to the previous page. When I'm creating a servers, so you have an options to choose the operating system. So these AMIs are publicly available, and some are free and some are paid services. And if you're using the IAC, you make sure that normally we refer the AMI with this AMI ID. The same AMI will be having, you don't have the same AMI ID in a different regions. Different region will have a different AMI ID. You need to make sure that you refer to the right AMI ID in a respective region when you're referring in the code. So Amazon Linux, you can choose any OS. We can go with the Amazon Linux because it will consume only 8 GB disk space, whereas Windows will consume 30 GB disk space. And this is a free service, free AMI. They won't charge us when you are consuming this operating system. So instance type, like how much CPU memory, or you can go with the compare instances. So it will give you a wide range of offerings, like different hardwares, different generation of servers. Depends on our use. You can choose the servers. So it will show the per hour billing as well. So I can go with the T2 micro. And this is a x86 architecture. The CPU architecture is x86. This is i386 architecture, and it supports the 64-bit applications. So the key pair, I'll choose the other one recently what we have created, my first VPC. Instead of name it as a keep something. Security group, select an existing security groups. So we have created this security group where we have allowed communication for the servers. And so the AMI what we have chosen, it requires only 8 GB of disk space. And if you want to create additional file systems, here is the option, add a new volume. For now, like I'm not adding additional disks. So in the advanced details, we have an option for spot instances. Different options. Just looking for a public IP address, maybe. Okay. Auto assign public. Okay. We have an option already enabled, auto assign public IP addresses. So it will allocate a public IP and also a private IP to the server. So in the user data, so this is a place where if you want to run specific commands for the very first time when you're booting the server, it is this section. It won't like there are options if you want to recall these commands or the instructions what you have given in a user data in a recurring times, but this section by default it will be run only once on your server. There is first boot up only. So what we're doing, we're updating the operating system, then we're installing the Nginx resource. So we are making sure that the Nginx is auto started during the server reboots. So it is creating the server now. So if we see the servers, so it have a public IP address and the public DNS name, private IP address, something is wrong actually. We have given 10.1.1. Okay, maybe while choosing, let's see the VPC what it has to do. Okay, I haven't chosen this VPC. I have chosen this VPC while creating the server. So I'll delete that server and I'll let it create. Later we can create a new one. So here I forgot to choose the VPC what we have created. And the subnet, I will choose from the available to unit automatically picked up issues. Auto public, we're assigning a public IP because we need to access the web server from outside. We're choosing existing security groups. So the web server 01, I'll delete it. So you have an option stop terminate. So this is already started. Yeah. So now it has taken the subnet what we have created from the availability zone 2. And it got a different IP address. And in the details, we can see like what AMI we have used and what IAM role it have, what VPC it is connected, what key pair, all these things we can see here. And you can see the monitoring. From the monitoring, you can see like CPU utilization, memory utilization for that server. Okay, since the server is just built, the data is not added, not available. Networking, storage, how many disks are there? Security, you can see all the inbound and outbound rules. So let's default. So obviously the SG01. So seems like I have wrongly chosen the different security group. I'll show you how to change to the one what you have created. Actions, security, change the security groups. You can remove the existing one, the one which is already there. So it is not giving an option to see the one what we have created. So that means we have done something wrong while creating a security group. In the security groups, so it is attached to the 8B D5. Okay, it should attach to the my first VPC. C1. So this security group, what we have created, it is pointed to the wrong VPC. That's why it is not visible there. So we have to delete this one and we need to recreate it. It is saying it is attached to some network interface. Okay. The first, I believe this interface belongs to the server what we have created earlier. Yeah, it is a previous one. So this network interface ID is very important when you're troubleshooting the VPC flow logs. You have to take this ID and you have to get into the VPC flow logs to check the communication. So what it's trying to say is like the one what we have created earlier, this is having that it is connected to this to see the security. Okay, our SG01 is connected to this web server 01 because they are created on a default VPC. Let me delete this instance.
Rajesh, so we can use security group associated to only one VPC, or can we use the same security group for multiple?
Okay, that security group is visible within that same VPC only. If you are attaching that security group as a specific VPC, right, it is visible within that VPC only.
Okay, but can we attach that to another VPC, or it won't allow?
No, no option. There is no option.
Okay.
And also, one server can have more than one security groups.
Okay.
Okay, each security group is nothing but inbound outbound table contains specific rules to allow specific communication.
Yeah, but we cannot reuse that security group for other. We cannot map to multiple at a time.
Oh no. Okay, let's try that option also. So if we see the security group, it is currently is in the D5 VPC. If we see the VPC what we have created is in the 6C1. Okay, let's try to change the security group to 6C1.
Okay.
So this is a security group. There is no option here to attach to a different VPC.
Hmm.
So actually, while I was creating by default, it was populated. I haven't seen it clearly. So now we are choosing the right VPC where it has to create. And we're adding an inbound rule. You can select all TCP. And select my IP only. Add one. Create security. So now if you go to the instances, even though it's terminated, it will take some time to delete this entry from this screen. It is showing 2 SG on. It is, we need to see which one we have. So ending with 319. So web server 2, if you see the security, it is having an outbound rule. It doesn't have an inbound rule. Let's see whether it allow or not. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is like I'm trying to connect to the server using a public DNS with the private key. It is not allowing because I haven't added the inbound rule. So I added wrongly to outbound actually. So that's the reason.
Okay. And also, where do we need to place this PEM file while accessing?
Okay, if we see, right, in my current work directory, I have that private key. That's why I referred to this // means in the current directory, or you can give the full path, absolute path.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have to specify that PEM file and then our command, right?
Correct. So you need to mention which key you are using to communicate. This user already created in the Amazon Linux image. This is a default user. That's why we are using this one. If not, we have an option to create a new users in a AMI. So since it's already an Amazon one, so this is a default user to connect.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, after adding the inbound rule, it is allowing me to communicate to the server. So what it is saying is the permissions of that my file, the private key is wide open. I need to remove so okay, if you are familiar with the Linux, right? This is a user section, group, other permission section. So it is not allowing to have others and group to have a read access for the private key. That's why it is not allowing me to log into the server. After changing to the I have removed the permissions for group and others, then it is allowing me to log into the server. So we're in the server now. So it haven't installed the commands what we have run. So there is a section called, we can see what happened during the boot. It's a cloud init log. So this is a cloud init log, output log. So it has ran the m update -y for the making sure that the patches are up to date. But it haven't run the nginx command. So it's unable to communicate to the Red Hat repos, the Amazon Linux repos, because nginx. Okay. Okay. So it is unable to reach to the internet. So something wrong with our internet gateway communication. So how do we troubleshoot? We'll try to curl to the respect to URL and see if it is able to curl to that website or not. So it is unable to reach to the respect to URL. So something wrong with our internet gateway. So let's troubleshoot this actually. Let's go back to the, so very first thing is how to troubleshoot is, so server level, if there is any firewall is there or not. So we need to see there is no firewall rules in the OS level. So nothing is denying here. So OS level, it is very clear. Now the next step is we need to get into the security group, because security group is a instance level firewall to allow the communication. So go to the security groups. Okay, first we have to see what security group is attached to our server. This is our Web02 server. Go to the security. You can see this is a security group. Select the security group. Inbound rule, it is allowing all TCP, all the ports. Source is okay. Because this only I was able to log into the server. So security group is good. But I haven't allowed the 443 or 480. It's a different issue, because even though Nginx is running, we cannot access the Nginx because we haven't allowed, okay, we have allowed all the ports, but I can only access from my laptop. So then next step is NACL. I see it is in the VPC. Okay, NACL will be in VPC. Okay.
NACL is specific to subnet
It is,
firewall.
yeah, if you see NACL is attached to the subnets. So it is also allowing all the traffic.
Yeah.
So now the next step is our internet gateway. So internet gateway is attached to the our VPC. Okay, correct only. Subnet is this one. So let's go to the routing. Maybe a routing issue.
Can you check the configuration of that internet gateway? Here we are checking this VPC, right?
Yes, Sunil. We're talking about the internet gateway. There is no configuration here actually.
Oh,
It
okay.
is only attached to the VPC. It is
Okay,
correctly attached. So route table is correct. But the thing is, it is able to reach to the these repos, but not to the repo what we have looking for. So I'm just trying to see any issue with the, because so when it'll also go to the public repos to download this RPM. Let's see how it goes, because it is able to show all these repos are available. Yeah, it's unable to reach us to the repos in this one also. Okay, it's an intermittent issue actually.
Okay.
It is trying to reach multiple repos, but only when I do, it is trying to reach one of the repo, but it is failing. It's intermittent. But how come? Yeah, Raish.
Time check. Actually, it's already crossed the 12. So if we can get it done today, it should be all right. Otherwise, we can schedule another section where we can start from wherever we left. And next time we can focus on the practicals actually, or like hands-on section.
Yes,
Is
Raish,
that all
actually.
right?
Yeah, even I need to go out actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
because
it's like Saturday. I don't want to engage you like further. So thank you so much. Thanks for your time and on weekend. I'm not sure how many left. And thank you, Siva, Mauli, and Srikanth for joining. And obviously, like we are looking for more exciting sessions, and I hope there will be one session tomorrow at 10 a.m. Is there any concern on that? I could have asked this at the very beginning of the session actually, and that's going to be purely business focused and blockchain specific. Uh, he got expertise in working with the National Bank of Nigeria and various initiations of India. Actually, there is something called India. What's that? Blockchain Bharat, something like that. Actually, he was one of the VC for that. So, and obviously, that's going to be again like another interesting session. So, I believe that you are comfortable to join for that session as well.
Yeah,
And
Rajesh.
I'm going to share that in the group as well. And I'm sure like most of the Nigerian, I mean like the Central Bank of Nigeria, senior executives and technical team got trained by him. And they were super impressed because of the knowledge that he shared on demystifying the blockchain technologies actually. So he might or might not focus on the Hyperledger fabric, but at the end, he's going to give overall the big picture of the blockchain, the different use cases of the blockchain and some technical technology point of view. And later we can schedule the technical overview of that as such.
Yeah, any prerequisites for that so that if we share it, people can go through that and it will be easy for them to understand.
I will check with him whether he can share the slides and the way how he take our handholds is that even layman can understand what it is exactly. So he starts with the basic architecture and then take you to multiple sections of the blockchain and how those can be interact. And obviously, it's not going to be pure technical. So I think like it's going to be super good show because before I attend for his session when I was in Singapore, like we were part of like around 10 senior executives joined for that session, and our perception was completely different on the blockchain. We always used to think of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other stuff. But after joining his session, we understand that there are a lot more use cases that comes into the private blockchain compared to the public blockchain. And if I am able to speak so much about the blockchain, it's because of that session that gained me interest to look at various sections of that. So I'm confident that there's going to be like super interesting session,
Okay.
and we can gain a lot of insights. For me, it might be repeating, but yeah, I think at least the rugby IT team can gain some insights on the blockchain. I'm sure about it.
Yeah, Rajesh, thank you. And I would like to thank Rajesh who gave the session today. Like Rajesh, you covered a majority of the things, start from the basics, and even somewhere like you gave the details about like what logs we have to check and how to handle the things, debug all those things. Yeah, though we got some issues in this practical session, but we got complete insight like how to create this VPC subnetting, then security group, all those concepts we understood, and we can play around. We can create some account and we will try it out so that we will get more confidence on that.
Yeah, sure. Actually,
Yeah.
getting error is always good. Actually, we'll get
Yeah,
chance
yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I'm about to
if
add
it
that
went through,
actually. Yeah.
if it went through quickly, like we won't understand like anything.
correct.
It will be like we'll
Yes,
think like it's very easy, but when we get into some issue and start debugging, we can learn more into that.
and
Actually,
that's where we
normally
can
we
see
won't.
in depth. Yeah, go ahead, please, Rajesh.
Normally, we don't work with the internet gateway because only one account in your organization will have internet gateway connectivity. So very seldom you go and work in internet gateway, but troubleshooting an internet gateway portion is good for us.
Yeah.
And also, actually, I haven't enabled the VPC flow logs, or else we can quickly find out the root cause.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, I always love the technical difficulties and the challenges, so that at least we know that how to troubleshoot, what logs to look at it, and the different commands that you used. That's where like expertism comes into picture, right? Otherwise, like creating VPC by using all default settings, anyone can do across the globe, just like attaching and running the show. And obviously, that might be helpful to the business people to understand the flow. But yeah, to the techies, it's always good to have the issues, Rajesh. I love it.
Thank you, Rajesh, and thank you, Shiva, and thank you all for.
Thank you, Rajesh. It's
Thank
very
you.
useful, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thanks
Thank
for
you
your
all.
time and thanks for your presentation.
Yeah.
Your troubleshooting skills are very good.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
he's
learn.
expert in technology side. Actually, he was the one who implemented complete private cloud to the OCPC in Singapore. And recently, he started working on these external cloud services like AWS, Azure, and the Kubernetes part. Actually, I mean, like almost 3 years onwards. And before to that, he used to take care of our complete infrastructure, and any issue related to the servers or the network and so on, the single point of contact is Rajesh Bharpati. So that's why I'm so confident he got like great skills. And of course, like engaging the audience, that's a different story, because the audience always comes from the different backgrounds, and they might understand, might not understand what we've been talking about. So I think next time we can make it more practical and hands-on session, Rajesh, so that it will be more engaging and they can see what's happening behind the scenes.
Okay, Rajesh, sure, definitely.
Okay, that's
And
great. And
today's session also like it's interactive only, like it we can
yeah,
say
for
like
me, it's really interesting. Yeah, interaction wise, there is no issues. Basically, it's about the interest of the people, and we need not to worry. As long as if they are not gaining something, that's okay. If they are gaining something, that's super good actually. Yeah. So and today's session definitely it has to set the ground for the future understanding of various sections and blocks of the whatever like cloud services. It's not only specific to the AWS. The basics, whatever that Raj has shown, it's so interesting and that can be applicable across the platforms. It's just not specific to the AWS. And going forward, we can focus on specific to AWS and Azure and Kubernetes. I thought like we can cover it today. And anyway, that's interesting piece. We kept it for the next session. That's even good actually. So we can see like how we can start it there.
Rajesh,
yeah,
actually,
we need separate session for Kubernetes because that
I
is
think, yeah.
Rajesh, actually, by going with this flow, right, it seems like next session will be only for Azure, and after that only we can cover Kubernetes.
yeah.
Sure, that's great then. We can see like Azure as a different session and then Kubernetes as a different session. And I will see like what's the audience preference. If it is Kubernetes that they want to learn and that can be applied immediately in their daily life, we will schedule Kubernetes first and then Azure, or else like we will just swap it and go with the same flow, Rajesh.
Okay, Raj. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you,
that's
Raj.
great. And thank you so much again, Rajesh, for your time on the weekend. And thank you, Shiva Mauli, for such an active contribution.
Yeah,
I love it.
Thank you for organizing this, Rajesh.
Yeah, thank you so much. And see you tomorrow at 10 actually, 10 a.m.
sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.